Hi, it's me again, Brodie McLeod, and I'm still at Hayward Ward, Cygnet Cuestake Hospital. I'm just continuing my banal and sort of expressive series of YouTube videos to express myself. And like I saw this thing, Russell Kane the other day did this piece, and he was just sort of like, fuck off, I don't want to follow your journey. No one wants to follow my weight loss journey, follow my fucking alcohol giving up journey. No one's really interested in following my mental health journey, but I'm just trying to think of content and interesting shit that I know about to talk to you about, as well as documenting my journey. But yeah, I've just, what have I done today? I've been into town to go and buy a vape, and I've just ordered some new sunglasses to replace the ones that got broken from Amazon. Should be here tomorrow. Excited about that because it is a beautiful sunny day out there. Made like an Instagram post a minute ago. I just sort of like realised that what I said made no allegorical sense whatsoever, which made me think about the free man on the land movement. I don't know if you've heard about it. It was kind of big about 10 years ago, and in the United States and across Europe, there are people who are trying to reclaim their birthright, their straw man they call it, with this complex kind of thesis that at some point maritime law was used to govern human beings. A certificate of birth used to be when you brought goods like spices or like tea or gold or silver into a harbour, you would have to, in the UK, have a bond to be able to sell those items, and that was a certificate of birth, and that had nothing to do with giving birth or children being brought into the world. But they used the term giving birth when all the British citizens, I believe, in my knowledge, I knew a bit about it and I followed the movement for a bit. John Harris was quite a good guy. I went to an event of theirs at Buckfastleigh Town Hall once, where a guy called Brian Gerrish and is it Alfred Burgess or something, and this guy John Harris were doing a big talk in front of lots of people. And we're talking about Common Purpose, which you might have heard of, which is sort of like a consultative, they say, brainwashing cult for world leaders and sort of politicians to learn public speaking, and also all about the satanic rites of sitting around in circles, which at the time, when I was just like carrying chairs and kind of being a bit of a dog's body to this movement that an old friend of my mum's had become really interested in. So like in a nutshell, when you go into a court, all human beings are considered to be stocks now, which are owned and traded. And when you go into a court, that's why you go into the dock in a court, because you are corporate property of UK PLC, you are owned by it. And the reason that police officers are called police officers is because they work for a business run for profit, the UK PLC. And when they ask you, do you understand? They say when you get arrested, they ask, they say you've got the right to remain silent. Anything you can do, say, will be given in evidence and used against you in a court of law. Then they say, do you understand? Now in English, we think that means, do you comprehend? Do you get what I'm saying to you? But in legalese, which is like a different language, it sounds like English, it isn't English. What they're actually doing is offering you into a verbal contract. When they say, do you understand? And you say, yes, I do, that means you stand under the jurisdiction of what they're saying, and you've contracted with them. And from that point, you've tacitly accepted to do that. In the Wirral, they threw a judge out of court. These guys, just Google, judge gets thrown out of court by lawful rebellion advocates. If you want to read about that, it got a bit of coverage in the press. And some people, like your national insurance number apparently is a bank account, and you're the sole beneficiary, and it's what pays for like your NHS treatment if you need treatment at a young age before you've got, before you pay tax into the system. And there's loads of interesting stuff. The thing about maritime law and contract law and human beings, it's a bit like the V5C. So like, if you have a V5C for your car, you're the registered keeper. You don't own your car. Nobody in the UK owns their car. DVLA owns it. You just are the registered keeper. And if you don't pay their taxes and follow their rules, they can take your car away and crush it. and that's the same with people. Like the Department of Health and Social Care can remove children from their parents if they don't follow a certain set of rules and governance. So this kind of free man on the land movement was kind of advocated as a bit of a social justice and emancipatory thing, with some really interesting paradigms and concepts that make a lot more sense than the garbled horse shit that I was kind of dribbling outside the Sovereign Centre. I did spend £1.84 at Amazon with a bit of gift card to buy a short USB-C, because I might need that if I'm going to go to a different hospital rehab ward where I can't use my long phone charging cable, as well as my snazzy sunglasses, which will be both here tomorrow. But anyway, here's the Gemini bit of this video. I hope you enjoy it and you find it interesting. I asked, what is the free man on the land movement promoted by the late John Harris and the TPUC campaign and lawful rebellion about? Has anyone had success applying their methodology, and where did the legal concept first originate? Please provide a detailed explanation of legalese and cite any relevant information for further research relevant to its context within the views of lawful rebellion advocates. The free man on the land movement, lawful rebellion, and the TPU campaign. A detailed examination. The free man on the land movement, actively promoted in the United Kingdom by the late John Harris and his TPUC, which stands for the People's United Community Campaign, is a pseudo-legal ideology asserting that individuals can declare themselves independent of government jurisdiction and are not bound by statute law unless they consent to be. As you say, do I understand? And you say yes. Adherents who often refer to themselves as free men believes that the state operates as a corporation and that they can exist outside of its authority in a common law jurisdiction. This movement is closely intertwined with the concept of lawful rebellion, which misinterprets historical documents, most notably the Magna Carta, to justify compliance with the law. Despite its persistence following, the core tenets of the free man on the land movement and lawful rebellion have been systematically and repeatedly rejected by courts in the United Kingdom and other common law communities. There's no evidence of anyone successfully using these methods to, for example, lawfully evade taxes, invalidate debts, or overturn court judgments. In fact, attempts to do so have often resulted in significant legal and financial penalties, including imprisonment. Core beliefs and legalese explained. The movement has developed its own lexicon of legalese, terms and concepts that sound legal but have no basis in actual law. Understanding these is key to understanding the ideology. The straw man, or legal fiction. This is a central concept in free man ideology. It posits that when a birth certificate is created, the government creates a separate legal identity, or straw man, which is represented by a person's name in all capital letters. For example, John Smith. According to the theory, this straw man is a corporation that incurs all debts and obligations, such as taxes and mortgages. The real flesh and blood individual, as they call themselves, John of the family Smith, is believed to be separate from the legal fiction. Adherents attempt to separate from their straw man to avoid legal responsibilities. This concept has been consistently dismissed by the courts as having no legal validity. Common law versus admiralty or maritime law. Free men believe that common law is the law of the land applying to real people, while statute law is a form of admiralty or maritime law, which applies only to straw men and not to corporations. They contend that by not consenting to be governed by statute law, which is like commercial law, they can place themselves under a supposed common law jurisdiction where they're sovereign. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of the UK legal system, where common law, statute law are intertwined and apply to all individuals within the jurisdiction. Notice of Conditional Acceptance, NOCA. This is a document frequently used by free men in response to correspondence from authorities such as council tax demands or court summons. The Notice of Conditional Acceptance purports to be an agreement to accept the authority's claim on the condition that they provide proof of a valid contract between the individual and the authority. Since no such contract in the commercial sense exists for obligations like paying taxes, the free man believes this absolves them of the obligation. Courts do not recognise these notices of having any legal effect. Wet ink signatures. Adherents often insist on wet ink signatures on original documents as proof of a valid contract, believing that printed name or signature in a different colour has no legal standing. This is another misconception, as modern law recognises various forms of signature an agreement. The Lawful Rebellion and Magna Carta Clause 61. Proponents of lawful rebellion often cite Clause 61 of the 1215 Magna Carta as the legal basis for their actions. This clause, known as the Security Clause, granted 25 barons the power to seize the king's possessions if he failed to uphold the Charter's arms. That's from Wikipedia. However, this argument is fundamentally flawed for several historical and legal reasons. Repeal and obsolescence. Clause 61 was omitted from all subsequent reissues of the Magna Carta after 1215 and is not part of UK modern law. Specific to the time, the clause was a product of a specific political crisis between King John and his barons and was never intended to be a general right of rebellion for all citizens. No legal standing. Modern courts have unequivocally stated that lawful rebellion based on Magna Carta has no legal basis. Attempts to use this argument in court have been consistently rejected. The CPUC campaign and John Harris. The late John Harris was a prominent figure in promoting the free man on the land ideology in the UK through his website and online community, the People's United Community. Through videos, articles and forums, TPUC, fuck, I can't even speak today, disseminated the core tenets of the movements, provided templates for pseudo-legal documents, and encouraged followers who challenged the authority of the state. While Harris garnered a significant online following, his teachings have not led to any verifiable legal successes for his followers. The lack of success in application. The methodologies of the free man on the land movement and lawful rebellion have been consistently and robustly rejected by the judiciary. Key example is the case of Manchester Magistrates Court versus Mackenzie 2015, where a man who used free man arguments to avoid paying council tax was sentenced to 40 days in prison for contempt of court. Numerous UK councils have dedicated pages on their websites debunking free man claims, as they're frequently inundated with pseudo-legal correspondence. The judiciary has often described these arguments as spurious, without legal foundation, and a waste of court time. The origins of the legal concept. The free man on the land movement in the UK is a direct descendant of the sovereign citizen movement, which emerged in the United States in the 1970s. This movement was initially linked to an anti-government and anti-tax and tax protest groups. The core ideas were adapted and imported into other common law countries, including Canada, Australia and the UK, where they merged with local interpretations of constitutional documents like the Magna Carta. Further research. For those interested in further research into the legal, sociological aspects of this movement, the following sources are recommended. Judgment in Meads versus Meads, a 2012 Canadian case where Associate Chief Justice Rook provides a comprehensive and detailed debunking of organised pseudo-legal commercial argument, litigants, and which is highly relevant to the UK freeman movement. So check that out. Academic articles on pseudo-law, which can be found in legal journals and publications from organisations that study extremism and fringe ideologies. Websites of UK local authorities, which often have sections specifically addressing and refuting free man on the land arguments in relation to council tax. The UK Parliament website for accurate information on the Magna Carta and its role in modern law. In conclusion, while the free man on the land movement, lawful rebellion and TPUC campaign offer a narrative of empowerment and freedom from state control, their legal theories are based on fundamental misinterpretation of the law and history. There's no evidence of their successful application, and individuals who attempt to use these methods in legal disputes risk serious legal consequences. So yeah, according to Gemini, it's just a complete load of horse shit, and there is no legal or lawful or historical documented basis for it ever working. But it's really interesting. I'll see if I can find the YouTube playlist. Let me have a look. Wait there. Let me have a look. There's a talk he did. Called It's an Illusion. I'll see if I can find. There you go. There's the playlist. Part 1 of 5. Well, there's a 53-minute. Just watch this, basically. Watch this video on YouTube. It's 53 minutes long. He's like a carpenter, but he talks about legislations and statutes being things which are policies of a company. And a police officer is a policy officer of a company run for profit. And chief executive officers are also only bound by the contracts and the kind of stuff which they consent to. And he talks about legislation, statutes and acts of Parliament all being a bit like, the staff in this hospital have to wear a photo ID and a purple t-shirt if they're a nurse. That's a policy. They don't have to do that out in the community if they don't want to. They only have to do it once they've contracted into the role and work as people who are treating people and providing medicinal treatment and medical care. But yeah, so it sort of says, they say that common law is the only law of the land, right? So you can't cause harm or loss to persons or property. But other than that, anything like the Misuse of Drugs Act is an act, and everything which is, if you look in the Black's Law Dictionary, it quotes this in that talk. Like do watch it, it's really good. I know Gemini says it's bullshit and it hasn't worked, but in theory it kind of does have quite a lot of notable, worthy, and I believe kind of foundationally true tenets and conceptual basis. Like if you look at person, the definition of a person, in the Black's Law Dictionary, it's a legal fiction. Mr. or Mrs. Are prefixes to your straw man. It's what the straw man there's another completely separate thing, a bit linking to my video I did yesterday about monetary reform. There's a documentary called The Secret of Oz, and it's all about the symbolism of the Wizard of Oz. Like the gold standard is represented by the yellow brick road, the tin man was the tax identification number, and the straw man represented this legal fiction that everyone is dictated by. Like your birth certificate is printed on bond paper. If you hold it up to the light, it's like, if you put it up to the light, it's kind of, it's printed on bond paper. It's watermarked, just like a promissory note. And you needed a certificate to trade goods and services in the UK if you were, in the old days, like a kind of, like a pirate or a tradesman on a ship. And you do still have docks in courts. They call it the dock. And, when you get into a court, they do say, everybody rise. And when you rise, when all rise in attendance, that's a tacit acceptance of agreement to contract with the jurisdiction of the court. And like legislations and statutes, look, if you just watch that video, like It's an Illusion, it really does, like, it doesn't work. Nobody's ever got it to work according to Gemini. Like it would be on the internet if people had managed to kind of usurp the law. Like it says that common law is still valid, but that's the only law that's still valid. And you're not your name in block capitals, which is a bit like a kind of a franchised Marks and Spencer's branch is, corporate property of Marks and Spencer's, and Marks and Spencer's 1 Temple Street is a corporate legal fiction. It's not a person or a person. It is like a person. Like a person is a legal fiction, and you're not a person. You're a human being. You're a free living human being on the land, which is a bit of a kind of narky, wanky way of putting it, I must say. A free man on the land. What it's saying is I'm an organic human being. I'm not, a legal fiction or an entity which is controlled or governed by contract law or the jurisdiction of maritime or admiralty law. Watch that video. Find it on YouTube. It's an Illusion. It's like he's a really personable bloke, and he kind of is still in the process of gaining a further understanding himself. Like he's not a legal expert or anything, but he does his PowerPoint presentation and it's really compelling. And I have read into it quite a bit, and I've had a lot of conversations with people who know a lot more than me about it, and I think it's probably the sort of thing that anybody going into political power or parliament should take notice of, because although it hasn't worked, it's mostly kind of like dope smoking hippies who don't want to pay their council tax debts, who don't want to have to pay their way in life, and its main proponents and advocates are sort of like hippies and kind of people that go to festivals like Truth Juice or conspiracy. It's like the conspiracy movement is full of counterintelligence agents, like where they people who basically will talk about real stuff, but will be such a vacuum of credibility that nobody would ever believe them. And it's sort of like this, yeah, like if you get into the alternative media movement, you're just surrounded by bumwash, like bits of truth, but then also just dog shit everywhere, and you don't know where to, you know, look for the reality, the kind of pearls of wisdom in what you might see at these kind of events and on these sort of websites, and which bits are kind of valid and worthy of note and which bits aren't. But yeah, that's my video for today. I hope you like it. Watch that video of John Harris, It's an Illusion. It really is eye-opening stuff, and I reckon if the right political party or the right kind of team of kind of solicitors or legal experts looked into it, I think you could get it to stick, because I think that all this stuff that he mentions is broadly true. Like, you can Google it, like it is true. Like, you know, like the way that our legal system works with maritime, yeah, still got post-sovereign centre confusion. But yeah, look it up. Check out the Free Man on the Land movement. Check out Lawful Rebellion. Google it. Watch that video. And for everyone hitting the festivals this weekend, I wish you a safe and pleasant time out in the sunshine, enjoying yourself. I'm going to be sat in a psychiatric ward having a shit one, which will probably make some people happy. But thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and all the best to everybody who loves each other in the world, because love's the most important thing that exists.